welcome to the Perth Gaming Crew show. My name is Jonathan, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Johnny. How you doing today, Johnny?
I'm doing great. Very
Awesome.
excited for the show today, and super excited that we've got Tim back on the show. Tim, I hope you recovered from all that Schwarzenegger movie tie-in gaming footage we subjected you to last time.
Yeah, I'm still in recovery, boys. But otherwise, I was able to make it today.
Excellent. We're really glad to have you, Tim. And look, people of Perth and Beyond, we are putting Tim through the emotional ringer because last time we had him on, we had to dredge up our trauma about all the horrible games that belonged in the bargain bin that we were exposed to, and we had no choice but to experience in our younger days and even our slightly older days. Today, we are going to take a slight left turn, and we are going to focus on what we call our pile of our shame, our backlog battle, the games that we talk about, we pretend to be experts about, but really, we've barely touched them. Let's not kid ourselves here. And there are some absolute high flyers here. So our hearts are on the table. Judge us as you will, people of Perth and Beyond. But don't forget, you've done the same, and we know it too. So we're going to talk about a total of 9 games. We've got 3 each, and I think we're all pretty shocked and disgusted with each other about what was on this list. I certainly felt very judgmental towards Johnny and Tim and felt that our friendship was really contingent on how today's episode goes. But you never know. Before we hack into each other, because it's an emotional brawl on this show, I do have a key question. As a gamer, everyone has their own, as I mentioned, their backlog battle, their pile of shame. Tim, as our guest, what do these terms mean to you?
I'm glad you asked, and in a bid to sort of claw these friendships back.
There's still time.
Look, there's still time. Yes. Well, like what we're going to be discussing today, I've raised it with both of you guys offline. So in terms of pile of shame, it can include a lot of things, but specifically, like in my mind, it's those games that so many people had been talking about. The games that have been so popular upon release. Games that like so many people have blazed through, they finish, declared that it's one of the best games of all time. But for us, it could also mean that these are games that we've only ever started but never finished. So we could never really truly join those conversations with fellow gamers. And it's all the stuff that people rave about for years to come. And then, we just sort of look at it on our shelves or whatever pile we may have in the background and think, I probably need to get around to finishing that. But then we always get distracted by other things. But another criteria in terms of piles of shame, it could also mean things that were formerly part of the pile of shame, things that, after so many years or so many attempts, we've finally tackled and slayed.
The pile of completion.
The pile of completion, yeah. So, like not quite a pile of shame, more like, former pile of shame, but, like something that, we can finally join everyone else in the sun, and say, yes, we're one with you, we finished this as well. We're true gamers. We're not frauds.
We've rejoined society once again, and we can be accepted back into the fold. But let's not kid ourselves, Tim. There's still that little secret pile of shame or backlog battle that always eats away at us, isn't there? Johnny, what about you? What does this mean to you? And, a couple of deep breaths if need be first.
Look, for me, the pile of shame just it just equates with being a gamer in adulthood, when you have adult responsibilities, and whether that's children or a job or you name it. So when you're a kid, you didn't have that many games. When we all grew up, we didn't have so many games to play, so you tended to play them a lot, and you tended to complete them. Sometimes you completed them multiple times because it might be, say it was a birthday present. In my case, that meant a good, possibly close to a year before the next game came as, I say, Christmas present or something like that. So you played your games a lot and you completed them. Then suddenly you flip that and you're an adult and you have the means to buy all the games that are out there. That doesn't necessarily mean you have the time to play them. And this is summed up perfectly in a meme that was going around the internet a few probably about 5 years ago, where there's a picture of baby Yoda Grogu, and there's a picture of grown up Yoda, old Yoda from Empire Strikes Back, and under the baby Yoda it says like 10 years old, me looking at all the games I can't afford, and then under the picture of old crusty Yoda it says 40-year-old me looking at all the games I own that I don't have time to play. And that encapsulates the nub of the pile of shame problem for me, John.
Love it. Beautifully outlined. I'll add to what you guys have said. And it's kind of like this never-ending, always growing pile where you get excited about the latest games that have come out, or you catch up with your friends and they're like, no, you have to play it. It's AAA. It's the game of the year, or it's third place, or your latest branded game comes out. You've seen your favorite movie and the new, Superman game comes out. You go, I'll pick that up and I'm going to play that and I'm going to complete it. And the reality is, it's all a lie, isn't it, fellas? Like, you're just not going to. You know you want to. You tell people you will, and people say to you, "Have you played that game?" And you're kind of like, "I have. I've played it." And you say things like, "I've played it," but you don't say you've completed it, do you? You can't look them in the eye and say, "Hand on heart, this is game of the year material," because I've 100%ed it. So, people at Perth and Beyond, we're all guilty, but you are too. And we're going to go in and talk about some of the biggest games on our pile of shame, which is incredibly huge. And we're going to start off with you, Tim. Let us know, what is your first one? And people of Perth and Beyond, if you have popcorn or tomatoes, throw them at your screen, because we are going to rip into each other and judge each other harshly, because we're all guilty of it. Tim, what's going on?
All right. Well, look, this one, it really doesn't need too much introduction from me, just because it's a huge franchise now, developed by Naughty Dog Games, talking about The Last of Us.
This is the OG Last of Us, Tim.
That's correct. We're not talking about the PS5 re-release or the PS4 re-release or the PC edition. We're talking about the original PS3 release from 2013. My previous experience with Naughty Dog Games was through Uncharted 2. Excellent game. It was gifted to me by my wife, and in one night I managed to complete that game. I didn't have a lot going for me at the time. I was sort of between jobs, so I had plenty of time to devote to tackling that. And I loved what they did with that, and in particular that series as a whole. Very strong storytelling, great gameplay, and action set pieces that generally rivaled a lot of Hollywood films at the time, and even up to now. With that sort of pedigree, I was really excited for the next thing that Naughty Dog would release, and in the end, it would become The Last of Us. And from the first ads, I was very, very hooked. Great marketing promotion, highlighting that focus on melee combat, crafting limited weapons, zombie-like creatures. It was very promising, and it scratched that itch, to play something that was, post-apocalyptic setting and survival horror at its best, and again, bringing what looked to be another cinema quality experience with really rich characters. I tore open that game and I was so keen to play through it. I blazed through the intro, which is saying a lot for me, in especially nowadays where I barely make it past the tutorial with a lot of games. It was just such fantastic storytelling. It was truly heartbreaking when Joel loses his daughter during the initial outbreak. Sorry if that's spoiling things for anyone. And voice work is stellar as always. Troy Baker, brilliant in anything he does. The performance is so fully realized. You can feel that pain, all the sadness, and why the experiences have caused him to become so numb until he finally meets Ellie. And Ellie herself, she's super charming, she's funny, and she's played by the always wonderful Ashley Johnson. I'm a big fan of hers, especially lately, loving her work as well as the rest of the cast's work in The Legend of Vox Machina. But again, that's a conversation for another day. I'm not trying to deflect from the fact that I haven't finished this game.
But are you, Tim? I mean, are you? I'm hearing a lot of positives about this game. I haven't heard a bad word. Time to fess up, brother. What's going on?
There is so much positive about this. There are really great set pieces, but the one that really springs to mind, there's this this part where you're in a gym and then you are trapped by this giant monster. And I just remembered one frantically trying to avoid this monstrosity, and emptying like almost all of my ammo, and dipping into the inventory and pulling out the Molotov that I'd crafted earlier and thinking, oh man, like, is this gonna do it? And it finally kills the thing. Just that feeling of pure desperation, and barely scraping through this particular encounter. I think it's an experience that Naughty Dog absolutely nailed, not just in this segment, but throughout the game. But this particular experience has stayed with me for, going on 12 years now. And another mechanic that they had was when you want to go through your inventory, it doesn't necessarily pause the game. Like, things are still happening in real time. So you can't exactly just sort of pause and then compose yourself. Like, everything just feels so frantic. And like, it just amplifies any of that sort of the tension and definitely the desperate scrambling. But here's why I stopped playing.
Still not hearing the negatives. Tell the people of Perth and Beyond.
Big one. All right, people of Perth and Beyond, be kind. There was this one area where you have to go into this dark, flooded basement, and I don't think I ran into any infected at that point, but you had to start up a generator. Once the generator starts up, I just remembered, TV, the volume was up really loud. And then as soon as the generator fired up, it was loud as shit. And I was like, oh yeah, like, this is probably going to be a good time to hit me up with a jump scare. I eventually get swarmed by all the infected. I'm like frantically running around trying to avoid them, punching everything that I can, anything that moved, running up the stairs, and, I'm trying to fight them off while trying to get through this locked door. And then I was like, oh man, there's so many, I'm just going to go reach into the inventory and grab another Molotov. But like, that split second, like, that's what cost me the game. And, I just remembered being so shell-shocked by that moment. I was impressed at how terrified I was, but my nerves were completely shot from that. I just put the controller down, did not go back to playing it for the rest of that day. I thought,
Wow.
I'll go back to it. But of course, something else. You kind of, after watching like a horror film, sometimes you need something to cleanse the palate. So I needed something more lighthearted after that. And GTA 5 had just come out as well. So I remember thinking, okay, I'll come back to Last of Us, but I'm going to go tackle GTA 5. I was sick at the time. I had a sick day. So like, I really, really went hard with GTA 5. And, kept playing it because, the storyline in that's fantastic. The three protagonists are amazing to play as. But I enjoyed it so much that I'd completely chickened out of returning to The Last of Us.
I think this is like what you call like classic like segue shame, where you just immerse in the game and you love it, and then the latest shiny thing comes out and everyone's talking about it. And as good as your experience is, and it doesn't sound like that part of the game was unbeatable, you pick up the next shiny thing, or you need that breather. But Tim, the question I have for you is this: you're talking about the PS3 version however many years ago. There has since been a remaster. There is a TV series. If you're on the internet, people of Perth and Beyond, you cannot avoid The Last of Us. How have you coped with your shame and your hidden secrets all of this time? Like, do you feel you need to play the remaster? Are you watching the show, or are you just going undercover and saying, I'm not having anything to do with this anymore? What's going on, brother?
Look, you've absolutely nailed it. This has been a really big sticking point in terms of shame as a gamer. I remembered walking through Hawaii, seeing ads for the PS4 re-release. I was working, and then one of the kids that was reporting to me at the time was saying like, oh, Last of Us Part 2 is coming out. Obviously, like, with the current generation, it's been re-released on PS5. I've seen season 1 of The Last of Us, and it was amazing. And like in the lead up to this episode, I was thinking about like, I think I really need to. I think I really need to go back to this, but
you just can't do it, can you? You just can't.
Like the PS3 is like, tucked away in the closet. It's there, yeah. And I think I've got my copy of The Last of Us here in this house. But like the mere fact that it's spawned such a huge franchise, it's had a really successful sequel, really well adapted for live action. Real and just by talking about it, even though my life has advanced significantly, I think I've got a lot of unfinished business here. Like I really need to steel my resolve to slay this at some point in time.
I think you're right.
I don't want to set any hard deadlines here, but like with the original release and like how I got distracted by GTA 5. I at least want to finish The Last of Us Part 1 well before GTA 6 comes out.
I was going to say, it's not like there's another GTA in the pipeline or anything, rigged, Tim, to make this happen again. People of Perth and Beyond, you've heard it all. This is a man avoiding the answers. He can't give you a straight reason why he has to come back to it. And
history's going to repeat.
Classic.
I feel like I'm going to have to live stream for you two, me playing through the entire game, and you can watch me chicken out at the same part. But like, I need to get through. I just need to harden up and finish this thing.
People of Perth and Beyond, join us for part 2 next year as we talk about the next GTA game and The Last of Us. Johnny, it's time to move on because we do. Otherwise, we get stuck with our piles and our tears.
That's right. And I'm going to make...
Which generation are you taking us to?
I'm going to make Tim feel a lot better because his game is at least quite an expansive game. The game that's on really sitting at the top of my pile of shame is the 2023 Super Mario Brothers Wonder. And this
Disgusting.
is the platformer that re-energized the 2D platformer genre after quite a few very kind of safe entries into the Mario 2D platform series on the Switch. And then in 2023 we got Wonder, and it was wild, and it introduced all these different crazy wacky elements, lots of new little power-ups like turning into an elephant and all that crazy stuff. But I don't know what it is about this game, but I play about 5 or 6 levels, and then I feel kind of sated, and then I tend not to come back. And I don't know what I haven't been able to put my finger on it. I just don't seem to get into it. And that's weird because I like Mario games. Like, I've been playing Mario since I was like 9. And it's very, I don't know, it's a fun game. When I pick it up, I do enjoy it for a short time. It's very easy to pick up and play. But yeah, I can't figure for the life of me why it just doesn't captivate my attention long enough to go through and complete it. Because it's not a very long game. And it's definitely one I'd recommend to anyone who likes the 2D platformer genre. But there's something about my particular gaming behaviors and sort of short attention span or something that's going on where I will just I will move on to something else. So I can't stay committed to Mario. I've got to see Zelda behind his back, it just I still haven't completed Mario Wonder. It's crazy.
It's so funny, Johnny, because like when we were putting this episode together and I got your list, I almost fell off my chair and I thought, no, he's kidding me. Like, we've gone through the Switch generation together. I know you've yearned for a new 2D Super Mario for a long time, and you are a much bigger Mario fan than me, and I really enjoy the Mario games. And this game is just great. And I remember, even at the time, you were like, "Oh, it's really good. It's got this, and it's got this, and it's got this, and it hits all the spots." It's just so amazing to to be like, "Nah, this is I'm done. I've done my levels." And I'm done. I'm going to wait another 10 years for a 2D Mario game to come along so I can half beat that. Johnny, so you've got to tell us more.
A bit like Tim, I feel like I need to go back to this before there's a new 2D Mario platformer race. I need to go back and give this game its proper due because I feel like I'm not doing it. I'm definitely not giving it its due because there's so much packed into the latter parts of the game that I haven't even touched yet. So I feel like a bit like Tim, waiting to get his Last of Us done before GTA comes out. For me, it's me knocking over Mario Wonder before there's the next evolution of 2D Mario, because it's just it sticks out like a sore thumb in my pile of shame, Jono.
No, it's Johnny, it's completely understandable. And look, as much as I've given these guys a hard time, we're all guilty. Like, we take a top tier game that we talk about, we love, we intend to play, and now it's my turn to bear all because I'm not shame free here. Like, I'm giving you guys a hard time, but my game, people of Perth and Beyond, is the Elder Scrolls Oblivion Remastered, and this is a remaster of a game that came out in 2006 and a game that I've wanted for years. I've looked at the original on the eShop and I've gone, I'm going to get it, and I held off because I thought if they remaster it, then it's perfect. It's modern graphics, they've fixed the AI, the combat will be better, and it does all of those things. And it got released, I bought it, I told everyone how much I'm going to play it, and I've been telling Johnny for about 5 months now that I want to talk about Oblivion on the show. Might even go solo and do an Oblivion special. And here I am, right next to you guys with Super Mario Brothers Wonder, Last of Us, top-selling games. And this is one of the best-selling and biggest games of this year that I've been waiting years for. And I just don't give a shit anymore. I've stopped playing. Like, I've seen my pile of shame and I've thought, you know what? I think there's a spare place for you. The game I've wanted for a long time, you can get up there. So people, like, if the context around this game is that I'm a huge fan of Skyrim. I've beaten that game about 4 times on my Xbox 360, on my Nintendo Switch in handheld mode, while traveling. Absolutely loved it to death, and I've been waiting to get my hands on this game. And unfortunately, I've realized that as time has passed, I've actually aged, and I don't have the copious amounts of time to play this kind of game that I'd love to. I generally, in terms of my gaming habits, I try to put half an hour in a game, and that's as much as I can get. And I might get a few sessions every couple of days or something like that. And I'm pretty disciplined, and I can play this kind of game and enjoy it. So I can do a side quest or most of a side quest. But I mean, again, this is the kind of game you have to fully immerse yourself into, take on the persona of the character. You know, people have their own life routines. Like, they'll go farm, or they'll go to church every day, or they'll go and chat to their neighbors, and this is the kind of thing that they do. So this is a game I really want to love, and it's a bit like you, Johnny, where I'm like, why am I not playing this? Oh, there's another game over there that I can play that's a lot simpler or easier, or, you know, that shiny new object. Couple of things I wanted to bring up about this game, though. It is an excellent remaster in its own terms if you haven't played it. Of course, it's, you know, you choose your character. There are lots of races to choose from. It's a bit like a sandbox, so you can do your own thing, or you can follow the main quest. Patrick Stewart's in it. He narrates it at the start. He's the Emperor, and the opening setting is just so cool. Like, you're in jail, and he's coming down with his guards, and he's like, oh, there's a secret door behind your cell. What are you doing here? And he's like, but I've dreamt about you. Come with us. And it's really good. Like, it really pulls you in. And then later on, you meet the guy who plays Boromir. I forget his name. Sean Bean. Sean Bean, who's also a main character, who's the son of Patrick Stewart, which is, okay, it's not really working in my head anymore, of the character. Suffice to say, the writing is fantastic. The choices are fantastic. I did want to give a quick shout out to a side quest that means I should be playing this game more. So this side quest in particular, you have this wood elf come up to you in one of the cities, and his name is Glathier. And he's really paranoid. He goes and he's like, oh, hey, man, I reckon there's all these people following me. Do you want to, like, follow them on my behalf? Because they're plotting against me. And you're like, sure, I'll do that. That's what I want to do while I'm in the middle of saving the world. Not a problem. I'll help you out there. So you go on this quest where you can follow each of these people in their own kind of monotonous routines, and he's creeping in the background. And the reality is that they're just going in the same general direction before they have to turn left to go to a farm or whatever it is. But what's really funny is, like, he gets you to report back at night, and he's like, yeah, they're spying on me. They're going to kill me. And you're like, nah. You can say to him, like, nah, they're like normal people. They're fine. Like, they're not doing anything. Or you can be like, nah, they're totally after you, bro. Like, they're going to get you. And depending on what you say, you can then visit his house the next day. You can go and spy on him and see what he's up to. And in his little basement, he's written all these notes. He's like, oh, they reported to me that this is going on and this guy's spying on me, but I don't trust the guy who's helping me out now. And it's called Paranoia the Quest, which is great. But this is just like one example of the wonderful immersive quests that I've chosen to give up. I have no explanation why I've fallen off this. But it does fall into the category you mentioned, Tim, where I'm like, no, I've really invested in this. I'm about 20 hours in. I'm just going to mainline the shit out of this game. I'm going to ignore all these highly interesting, enjoyable side quests because I think it's weird with these kind of big games. You do want to complete it. And I think this might be one that I'd struggle to come back to because of the size of it and being time poor. But have either of you guys heard about Elder Scrolls Oblivion Remastered? Is this too big or is this something you're interested in?
Yeah, definitely heard about it. A lot of friends at the time had been playing through it. One of the guys from work has talked this game up quite a bit as well. But like yourself, sometimes when I look at these games and whether or not I should purchase them, price is okay, but it's always the time. Like when you see a game where you've got to sink at least, say anywhere between 60 and 100 hours into it, I just sort of think, do I have enough time to be able to do that? But also, while I'm trying to do that and it's taking so long for me to finish, I'm more than likely going to get distracted by something else that comes out. And it's always going to be the case that, well, for me, the past couple of years, I've really liked a lot of those retro type games. Dave the Diver springs to mind. Like that game I could happily play because, every time you load up, you know that you're going to get a lot of enjoyment out of the short gameplay, whether it just be diving and then, just collecting fish for your restaurant, or if you're going to do like a quest, which isn't going to take you too long. That to me, I find that it maximizes that enjoyment in a short period of time as 100%. Opposed to those really lengthy quests, which sadly I think this particular game would fall into that category for me at least.
Yep, completely understand. No, that's probably a good summary of well, we all fall into these different traps. But we've talked about 3 massive bangers, people of Perth and Beyond. Tim, it's time to bring out your number 2, if you can bear the emotional weight of it, because it's going to be a long episode. Hang in there, mate. What's next that you need to confess about?
All right, this is another AAA title. Again, requires very, very, very short introduction, but developed by Sucker Punch, Ghosts of Tsushima. It was a huge title released in 2020 for PS4. It's since been re-released on PS5 as well as Steam. But my copy of the game is the OG, the original, released in 2020. And looking at the release date for this, it was placed around 17th of July in 2020. This would have been purchased during the pandemic and possibly during one of the lockdowns. And given the amount of time that I'd spent indoors, I'm honestly surprised that I haven't finished this one. And previous experience with this developer was with Infamous Second Son. And I thought that was a really, really enjoyable take on a super powered protagonist's action adventure, and they really had quite dynamic combat in the fact that he could absorb and then change to different powers. So with that in mind, when I saw the promotion materials for Ghost of Tsushima, I was really enticed. I'm a fan of some classic Japanese cinema such as Yojimbo, Sanjuro, the Lone Wolf and Cub series. And I remembered there was one gameplay video that they'd released, and it was a pretty lengthy battle between the main character, Jin Sakai, and this female warrior, Lady Masako Adachi. And, it was really epic. It was weapons-based, and it looked like a late-stage boss fight. The camera work was beautiful. It looked very photorealistic. And what surprised me was that the developers then came out and said that, no, this is actually a side quest. And I was thinking, if this is the quality of one of your side quests, I'm definitely curious to see what else you can do with the full game. again, game comes out, I buy it day one. I was so down to like conquer this game. And you know, you've got a very, very extended epic intro where you're part of the forces to repel a Mongol invasion. And once you go through that, it serves as like this very extended tutorial. But then the cinematic nature of the camera work again, you know, really, really impresses me. You know, it's following behind Jin as he's riding on a horse. And you know, the title card flashes up and he leans over to like, you know, run his hands through the blades of grass. I was like, this is so beautiful. Like this is actually artwork. And you know, like it definitely made me want to play through the rest of the game. What I was quickly impressed by was the combat. You know, everyone will more than likely love the combat in this because you have multiple weapons at your disposal, but the best part that they've crafted has been reserved for the sword fighting. You get to cycle through 4 main stances to deal with you know, various opponents, and you know, having that level of combat, you know, it's really thrilling. You know, I found, especially when you get to switch stances mid-fight, you know, you need to switch to one stance to take on someone who's got a shield, then you switch back to another, and you know, it makes it come across as you feeling empowered. You know, you feel like you're a true samurai with that. Exploration's pretty good. You know, it's a sandbox environment, so there's plenty of land to cover. But where I really sort of struggled was, you know, I found it a bit repetitive in one sense. You'd encounter random patrols that'd trigger a showdown. They looked really cool with the first few times that you did it, kind of like dueling in Red Dead Redemption. But you know, did every interaction have to sort of begin with that? You know, I know it's kind of optional, but like it also felt super repetitive when the option would show up. And then once I'd finished, I think maybe it might have been the first half of the game. The thought of having to tackle and clear yet another area or part of the island was something that eventually did lose me. I tried to find time to start playing it again before we recorded today, but I failed miserably. Again, I'm still finding it quite daunting to clear a massive map. And you know, like what we touched on before, you know, as we've gotten older, as I've found, time's become even more precious. I can't really devote like extended swaths of time to completing this. You know, I feel like, but in terms of talking about it, I feel like I do want to revisit it. It's almost like I've had, you know, my viewing habits with some movies. I tend to watch like the first half and then I pause, you know, go to sleep and then watch the second half the next day. I feel like I've kind of had, you know, this is the gaming equivalent, but I've had a break of about 5 years. So after a lengthy interlude like that, I'm warming to the idea of, you know, picking the sword back up and completing the story.
Yeah. It's interesting you mention that though, because when you look at a game like this or The Last of Us, your previous game, and then Oblivion, these are enormous games. And it makes me think about what Johnny said at the start, back in our younger days, where we had a couple of games and we would play them because that's all we had. And I can imagine if we were of that age and we had a game like this, I mean, these are described as, you know, third person, narrative driven, action adventure game, call it what you will with its own, you know, side descriptor. But it's really a life simulator. Like, you know, if you know, the kid version of us picked up a game like this, you are living your samurai dreams. And it looks completely realistic. And it offers an incredible amount of things like value, things to do. And again, you know, you've got The Last of Us, a huge game, and this is a huge game. Whereas there are people who put in 40 hours a week, whereas we can't, and they're going to be playing Ghost of Yotei, the sequel. I think that's coming out later this year. Yeah, and they don't want the 3-year break between games. They're kind of bored or they're looking for something. So it does come down to a lot, like you mentioned, like how you consume games and your lifestyle. But thanks for being honest with the people and beyond there, Tim. Johnny, what's up for you? If it's another Mario game, mate, I'm not doing it. No, I'm kidding.
I mean, I wouldn't do that to Mario. He's got a 40th birthday coming up. That would be rude. But it kind of goes to the reason. The next choice goes to the reason probably not finishing Mario Wonder. And that is because there are just too many Zelda games. And I do like Zelda games. and there's one in particular that is beloved. So Ocarina of Time needs no introduction. It's a game that is loved by all, particularly that part of the Zelda fan tribe that loves their first-person Zelda. So I never owned an N64. It's the Nintendo console I missed. And my first experience of the game was through the 2011 remake. So Ocarina of Time 3D HD for the 3DS. So the context is back in sort of 2016, 2017, I was playing a lot of my 3DS because I didn't own a Wii U, like a lot of people. And I'm sorry, N64 fans, but in the modern age, I cannot go back to those N64 textures. I'm sorry. It's just too hard on my eyes. So this has been my preferred way to play Ocarina of Time. And this is still, in my view, still one of the best first-person or third-person 3D Zelda games out there. It's so iconic, and it's got so many iconic elements that have found their way into later entries. I have a bit of a quirky reason for not having completed Ocarina of Time. And it's not all my fault, John. It's not all my fault. It has a lot to do with Nintendo is kind of to blame. And that has to do because back in 2011, they put out their convoluted timeline of all the Zelda games in Hyrule Historia.
You were derailed by law, Johnny. No,
I was derailed by law. See, so what happened?
That's a unique shame.
It's deep. I'm going deep into my shame, people of Perth and Beyond.
Wow.
So back in 2016, when Breath of the Wild was revealed, I got really hyped, and I thought to myself, oh wow, I'm so excited for that. I'm going to go, and this is, the game was shown in end of 2016. And I knew I wasn't going to get it straight away. So to entertain myself in the meantime, I'm going to play through Zelda games in the canonical law order. And I started right at the top of the timeline with Skyward Sword. And I worked my way down.
Man.
And I got to the point, I got to Ocarina, I played through Ocarina, played all the way to the end of Ocarina, and got to the final boss, got my ass kicked, and instead of persevering and going again and trying to take down Ganon in Ocarina of Time, I resolved myself to going down the hero defeated timeline.
You skipped a page, Johnny.
Which, to be fair, is the best of the three forks of the timeline. It has the best Zelda game ever, Link to the Past, which Tim is very familiar with now, and also has the NES Zelda game. So I kind of got derailed there. And then by the time I'd sort of worked my way down that arm of the timeline, Breath of the Wild had come out, and I started playing that, and that was such an expansive experience that I got sucked into, that it completely derailed this misguided adventure I got myself on. So
isn't it funny how things work out that way?
I think it says more about my weird gaming choices, but I got a bit derailed with Ocarina of Time, so I need to get back on track and get Link down the hero is victorious, one of the hero is victorious timelines, because my Ocarina of Time campaign has been somewhat paused for some time now.
I think what's interesting though is that you had this group of ingredients that derailed you and brought the shame on. Like, it was Ganondorf who stopped you, and then you're like, oh no, the new game is coming out and I need to continue the timeline. You actually worked your way through a couple of games, and these games are not big, they're huge games. And then this is considered, most Zelda fans consider this as the best of all time, or the most beloved of all time. Is that a fair call, Johnny?
Oh yeah, and I still recommend it. I I particularly recommend this if you have your 3DS. I highly recommend this remake, the 2011 remake, as probably the best way to play for the moment. There's lots of rumors going around about Ocarina of Time remasters for the Switch 2 and that kind of thing, so that's very exciting. But if you've never played Ocarina of Time, I highly recommend taking a look at this version. I think you'd have to have a lot of nostalgia for the N64, which I personally don't have any, to want to go and play the original N64 version.
No, I completely get that too. All right, well, going back even further in time to, again, another huge game. This is also one in the Nintendo camp. And I think this is something that I do that's like kind of like you, Johnny, where it's a unique shame. I'm at that stage where, like, we were talking about the big AAA games, and then we'll play lots of retro games or modern remakes, and I'm doing a lot of that. Like, I'm at this point where I will play. We've talked about Ninja Gaiden Ragebound in our chat, and we've talked about some of the other stuff. So I'll play these kind of remade or remastered or modern kind of like 18, 16-bit era games, or I'll go back and play something that I hadn't played from my childhood and wish I did. And then I'll have a big AAA on the side kind of thing that I might try and dabble into and make progress on, like Oblivion. So my particular poison of shame is Earthbound on the SNES. Now, some of you might be familiar with this game. This is a game that I heard a lot about growing up as a gamer over many, many years. And when I got my Super Nintendo Classic Edition I think it was a year or two after the Switch released that came out, I was just delighted because I was like, I'm finally going to be able to play this game and I'll play it through. Little did I know I wouldn't, but essentially, this is absolutely a wonderful game. It's a JRPG. It was released on the Super Nintendo. It has like the structure of a typical JRPG where there is a bit of grinding. You level up your character. You've got to collect different items. You build up a party. You go from kind of like act to act, so to speak. But it's almost like someone in Japan goes, I think this is what America looks like, and I'm going to make a JRPG of like what it would be to be a teenage boy in America, and this is what would happen. So it's kind of like this, person looking out at America and going, yeah, I think this is what happens in America at the time, because there's a lot of like little digs at American culture which are really hilarious. And it's kind of like watching an episode of Stranger Things mixed with E.T., mixed with, look, anything from the Goonies, all of that stuff mixed in together. And I absolutely love and adore it. So you play as this character called Ness. At nighttime, a comet hits like in your local neighborhood, and your character looks about 10 years old, and your mum's like, hey, go check out outside what's going on. I'm like, I don't think my mum would have said that to me at 10. When there's like this comet falling down, the police are out, because you go out and there's police tape and all this stuff. But this is how this game rolls. I'm like, wow, people in America, like, this is how they're perceived. And you come across like a school bully, and you basically see this comet, and I won't spoil the story, but you go on this kind of intergalactic mission with like your buddies that who join your party as you go along. But it's all very weird and bizarre. Like the thing you use to fight with is like a yo-yo or a baseball bat because you're a kid. You can get different baseball caps to protect your head and build up your health. One of the early missions has you taking down a gang leader in like a really like poor housing area of the actual town on it. And when you do that and you report back to the police like, oh, like, thanks for helping out. Come into another room with us. And you're like, all right, sure. I guess this is what happens. You go into this other room and the police commissioner's like, hey, if you want to get to the next level, you need to take on me and all of my buddies. And you have to fight up a lineup of policemen, like adult policemen, and defeat them. And it's like really friggin' hard too with your yo-yo. And I'm like, what is going on here? Is this like what people think really happens in America? And when you manage to do that, then the next part you go to is you go into like another area which is full of cultists, and they're obsessed with the color blue, and they've all got like cult, like it's kind of meant to be like the KKK, but not. And they've got blue hoods on, and they're like, everything's blue. Do you love blue? I do. And you're like, what is actually going on in this game? Like, I'm carrying around a teddy bear because it helps protect me for some reason. I'm off to find like, oh, by the way, you go to see the cultists because some girl's been kidnapped, and you talk to her mum, and she's like, oh yeah, I think my daughter's missing, but you'll find her. She's not even worried. She's not distressed. She's like, I think she's been kidnapped. And then you're like, well, I better go fix that for you because it's your child. So this is how the game goes. And then you come up against all these weird characters like, the hippie, like, and then the sprout, like the tree with, like, just called the tree with legs or something. And it's all very weird. I guess what I'm trying to say is I actually really enjoy it. I really love it. I've made progress bit by bit. But it is an enormous JRPG, and it's one where I have to set up my Super Nintendo Classic, have the kids out of the house, get the full-on big screen experience. And it's the kind of game where I can giggle and appreciate because it is so well written. It is, you can, when it's a game, you play a game and you can just pull it apart and enjoy every second for what you've seen, like the way something has been drawn or the way the character uses a particular word. And it's that kind of game. And I could play this for years and still not beat it and love it. So I think I'm on a very long journey for this one, but I do want to complete it by the end of the year. But this is Earthbound of the Super Nintendo. Do try it out if you haven't already. Definitely been on my backlog for a long time. Johnny, you've got a word or two to say about this one.
Yeah. It's so funny because I go through the same exact experience you've described, but with Secret of Mana on the Super Nintendo. I did the same thing.
Oh, yeah, I've not been Secret of Mana too.
Set up the Super Nintendo Mini, get going. But yeah, never quite making progress, but have never quite gotten it to the end. But yeah, so my experience is very much parallel to yours, John, in terms of Earthbound. Yeah,
nice.
The Secret of Mana.
And it's kind of like this shame of like convenience where like, oh, I could play it on my Switch in handheld, but I just can't be bothered. And, anyway, people of Perth and Beyond, just another amazing game you should go play that we have not completed. So we are complete frauds here. Tim, back to you. We've talked about a beloved series, but we're not done yet. I tell you what, people of Perth and Beyond, if you are interested in the Zelda games, go subscribe somewhere else because there are more confessions to come. Tim, you've got something to tell the people.
Yeah, so I'd been
take your time.
I'd been dealing with a bit of shame for maybe a few decades now.
I think I judged him hard when he told us this. So go ahead, Tim.
You can do it, Tim. You're almost there. I've really enjoyed Perth Gaming Crew's previous episodes, talking about your shared love of Nintendo. And, I thought for today's episode, it'd be really fitting for me to, join in the conversation, share my experience of a Nintendo game from my past. Definitely a Hall of Fame candidate for Pile of Shame. Something that I'd owned as a teenager, didn't get to finish while we owned the original copy on Super Nintendo. It's on so many best of lists, and there's a near universal love for the game and the series that it's a part of. Johnny, you've kicked us off by speaking on Legend of Zelda, and I'm now going to talk about your favorite game of all time, 91's Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. First seen this and experienced it on a classmate's Super Nintendo. He was one of the cool kids that got that as his first console. So lucky. I remembered him playing this game, and I don't know if it was my age at the time, but I actually didn't really appreciate the top-down view, which I think is really stupid of younger me.
Are you ashamed of younger you now?
Oh yeah, big time.
He contributed to the pile.
He's actually on top of the pile.
It started with him.
But, I think maybe at the time I probably didn't think it was advanced enough compared to like some of the side scrollers, which had probably a little bit more detail. Certainly like, the fast and furious sort of fun pace that I had with Double Dragon 2 on the NES. I think I unfairly judged it at the time, but I remembered we got this secondhand, and it was from Chadston, and it was from a game shop. So this is how old I am, people. But it's from a game shop that predated EB Games.
Ooh, love it.
So EB wasn't even a thing at the time. The state that I received the game in, it was pretty rough. Like, it was just the cartridge, and I think the instruction manual was wrapped around it and held with a rubber band.
Oh, I remember though. I've done that before too. Yeah. Yep. You're not the only one.
So like gaming stores back then, I think they were just absolute savages. And you know, I'd heard so much about this game in the years since I'd seen it on my friend's Super Nintendo. I thought, you know, I have to give this a go. It was cheap, and you know, I needed a new game. And luckily, I had in one of the Nintendo magazines that I bought around the time, I had part of a strategy guide for it. I think it was like maybe the first half of the strategy guide walkthrough. The second half was in the next issue, which I somehow missed. So I was like, I've got enough here. I'm gonna play through, see what I can, see how far I can get. And I took to the challenge. You know, I remembered it being a little more challenging than Super Mario games that I was used to. But you know, like I was immediately, I think I was enamored with the gameplay. You know, focusing on leveling up the health, getting new gear, finding new magic items. I found that really addictive, and that's probably why, you know, like in my later teen years, I started enjoying things like Diablo, for example. But in the lead up to today, I did set myself this challenge. I wanted to see if I could start this game fresh and finish it before today's episode. So, people of Perth and Beyond, I am ashamed no longer. I'm happy to say that this game has been completed by yours truly. But ignore the rest of the games, as well as my younger self that remains on that pile of shame.
The pile of completion. You need to hold it up like Zelda style.
It
like
is
the
gone
Triforce.
to the pile of completion. And,
the pile of completion.
I can happily wear the merch now. You know, because I'm a
You're
true
worthy
game,
of
right?
the merch.
I've completed at least one Zelda game.
So good.
I you know, what I really enjoyed in the past week and a bit that I was playing this, the art style holds up to this day. You know, it still retains a lot of charm. There's something really really cute about micro-sized Link, you know, just Pegasus shoe running his way through a map, spin attacking with the Master Sword. It looks retro now, but I think this game really did push the limits of the tech at the time. You know, the map is decently sized. It's not like huge by today's standards, but you know, what a genius mechanic to traverse two worlds using the magic mirror. You know, like one being a sort of flip side, but slightly different to the light world. I also really love the insanely brilliant, and I think it's you know, probably indisputable that it's you know, the classic level design. You know, it's going to remain forever classic for all of the dungeons. And you know, I appreciate like how the game really rewards exploration. You know, it's fun. It never got boring. You know, definitely rewarded the you know, people who are willing to experiment. And also you know, how cool is it that, you know, sometimes, you know, you might not be able to get past one area, but then you just need a certain bit of gear. You know, and then you think, oh yeah, I remember that area from before. I'm going to try going through it again. And you know, there was definitely, you know, I think I sort of got a bit of a high from experiencing stuff like that. And that chime that you hear when you obtain a big key, and then you can finally unlock the big chest, and then you know, you get to like collect another piece of gear for the inventory. Again, like it's just so memorable for me. During my playthrough, I'm going to relate this to our audience, but I kept you guys updated offline. I loved when Johnny would chime in when I'd reached certain parts. So when I got the Master Sword and defeated Aghanim and then arrived in the Dark World, you responded with that meme of Jim Carrey's Riddler, and then he says, "Now the real fun begins." And it really was fun.
You finished the game, Tim.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Oh my god. I got some PTSD. So like, you brought up Ocarina of Time before, and I've got that on the 3DS as well. It's still unfinished.
You get 20 years, man. After
You know
beating
that-
this Zelda, you get 20 years in the bank before you have to touch another one. You're good. You're all good.
But like you remember the giant hand creature, the ceiling master. So like he was really annoying me in the 3DS game. Like that was one of the last memories I have before I put the game down and didn't go back to it. But I was like thinking to myself, like, you know, while I was playing Link to the Past, oh, so glad that guy isn't around.
Are you just looking around the corners and going, is that a hand or not?
And then he shows up in one of the dungeons like, oh, screw you, Nintendo. Of course he was from an earlier game. So like he picked me up a couple of times. I was like thinking like, bloody hell, like I'm trying to think here, quit grabbing me. But then like as I started progressing through it, like so many times when I was getting like so frustrated. So that one of the first Dark World dungeon bosses, the Helmasaur King, you know, I couldn't like crack that guy for a bit. So I was like, all right, not stuff it. I'm going to go explore. I need to like level up my health, find new gear that might help me in this battle, which didn't. But
find some pieces of heart.
That's it. You know, like got all the heart containers. So I finally had enough health. And then, you know, like when I finally beat him, I reckon I may have averted a possible heart attack that night. But then like after that it started, you know, I started getting into the rhythm of it, you know, like I started finding it more enjoyable, you know, like just loving going through each dungeon, clearing it, you know, and then getting to the final boss and not having nearly as much of a difficult time. You know, like especially when you have things like things that are so helpful, like being able to collect a fairy so it can resuscitate you. I think I did that quite a bit. But I will have to say that maybe the thing that I would like to say to the designers, F you.
There's still time.
F you for the fights against the Moldorm and Ganon, because fighting on a platform, that was the most tilting experience for me. I lost count of how many times Ganon knocked me off the platform. Conveniently lost count. But I thought, all right, I've got enough time in the afternoon. I'm going to finish this last bit. He knocked me down so many times. I had to pause the game. I went out to get groceries, came back, got knocked down even more times, had to like help with cooking dinner, ate dinner, went back to the game, and then I finally beat the prick. I was like, man, it's so unfair. It resets the fight, but it's also like I think it helps lengthen the game experience, you know? So you're kind of like, you do feel like you've overcome a massive challenge, you know. And like I have to say, like, you know, if I were any good at dancing, definitely a happy dance would have been done at the end of that. But you know, that joy of finally completing a game from your, you know, your pile of shame, you know, it's an experience that I think I would like to feel again and again. I finished some games before we recorded, but those are the ones that, you know, I'd purchased more recently. You know, they weren't things that have been sitting on that pile. In this case, this one has been sitting there for like 2.5 decades. So, you know, like whenever you get to complete something that's from the pile of shame, I just feel like, you know, it represents so much more. You know, you get to, I guess, you know, rediscover something, you know, something that you treasured from your youth. You know, you finally get to slay something that you thought was so challenging before that you may have taken a break from, you know, and then you sort of go back to it with either a renewed sense of focus or determination. And then, yeah, like once you finally get something like this off of your list, it definitely scratches that completionist itch.
I feel like
which I think all of us have.
I feel like you also level up and you're kind of like, cool, as a person I've leveled up. Now that I've completed a game, my pile of shame's allowed to grow in size, like my capacity. Yeah. It's kind of like your backpack in Zelda. It's like, cool, now I've beaten one. I'm allowed to now add 10 more games onto my pile, and then I'll beat another one in about 5 years. Don't you feel like you've earned it, really, haven't you?
Yeah, definitely. And like I showed you guys before, now I feel worthy of being able to wear merch.
Put it on.
And Tim, you couldn't have worn that if you let down, you know, like the old man in the mountain and the feuding brothers and the little boy who got turned into a tree and you left them in their horrible state. So you needed to complete the game just for their sake.
Yep. Absolutely.
I think people of Perth and Beyond, this is a perfect time to remind you that we did film a Zelda special in previous years, so it's all lies, it's all bullshit. No, not true. what we're going to do now is announce that we've got a part 2 coming with Link to the Past, and no doubt Ocarina of Time, the 2DS version, is going to be on that. Keep an eye open for that one next month. Johnny, get on it. All right, we are running out of time, so I'm going to keep my final one short. I wanted to highlight this one because I'm in the early stages of this game where I'm getting towards the shame element. I'm loving this game. I'm playing it all the time. I've put it was 19 and a half hours into it. I've been playing about half an hour every night, absolutely adoring it. I'm still of the belief that, and I'm still enjoying it, nothing's dropped. And I'm still of the belief that I'm going to finish this particular game and I'm going to go and tell everyone how amazing it was and that I always beat all my games. This is 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim. So this came back out in 2019 for the PS4. And when the Switch came out, I guess probably like a lot of gamers on the Switch were hoping for old ports or particular games to come on and play in handheld mode, whether they were old retro games like Earthbound or games like this that just play well in handheld. So this is one I'd literally been eyeing off pre-Oblivion, and I'm finally getting onto it. And I'm actually absolutely loving it to death. Like, I haven't put it away after an hour or two. It's absolutely fantastic. But I know, fellas, this is how we feel before we add to the pile of shame. All it takes is one more session and one complete bullshit reason for me to drop off this game and go, you know what? Something new's coming out, like, Shinobi Art of Vengeance or Ninja Gaiden 4. Essentially, yeah, so this is 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim. It's a mix of visual novel and kind of like a simplistic real-time strategy game, which is very playable in handheld mode or with a console controller. It follows the stories of 13 people. Most are teenagers. There are some adults in there. And they're all living in different eras, like 1945 or 1985, or in the far future, like 2018 or something, like 2088 or something like that. The basic premise is that these worlds get invaded by kaiju, these big metallic monsters. So it seems at face value to be like a Godzilla kind of invasion survival story. But it is far more than that and very masterfully told. And I don't want to give too much away. It draws on inspiration from movies like The Terminator, E.T., Groundhog Day, Godzilla, of course. And each of these stories is so well written. I would honestly genuinely put them in my highest list of games, like just with a great story like Persona 5 Royal, which I've come off, I think it was late last year. Really, really of that quality. One of the characters I just wanted to briefly talk about, Kitaro Miura. He's a 16-year-old student in 1945. And it's an interesting experience for him because Japan's coming out of the war with America at this point in time, and he's seeing this invasion from the perspective of this kind of polite, conforming, young, modest Japanese soldier. And then he goes into the future, into 1985, and he's just bewildered that he sees these big steel structures in front of him. And I'm not sure if he's in Tokyo or another city, but he's making this commentary on like, oh, the girls here don't have to wear pants. They're showing off their legs, oh, look at these giant steel structures. They're enormous. How do they possibly function? Look at this mode of transport. And it does it in such a way that makes you think, gosh, it would blow someone's mind to actually experience that time change. Now, that's just one layer. There's so much more going on, and all of the protagonists have their own unique, interesting stories to tell that I've found absolutely fascinating. I can actually see myself playing this to completion. I really hope it doesn't go onto the pile of shame. War of the Worlds. Oh, I guess it's really weird that, on this episode, this is a game I'm probably going to fall off. I really don't hope. I hope I don't, but I'm just really excited to play it through to completion. Tim, when I mentioned this game, I know you said you were a bit interested in it as well. You heard about it, or you think you might pick it up?
No, look, I haven't heard of it, but just looking at the visuals for the game, I definitely would like to play something like it. Looks like it touches on a lot of the stuff that I like in anime as well. But like having something like where you're taking on like a kaiju threat, like that would be. I think it'd be something I would definitely want to purchase at some point in the future.
Yeah. Well, people of Perth and Beyond, what you need to do is just pen out your calendar for 2045, like the future in this game, maybe 2055, because that's when I'll probably beat the final chapter. I'll wait up until that point, and I'll go back and I'll talk about how I never got through. So you saw it here first. Guilty as charged. We have to wrap up today's episode. Johnny, do you have any final thoughts as a gamer about the pile of shame, the backlog battle that you want to confess about or tell the people of Perth?
Yeah, and just because we are running over time, I had an NES game I was going to mention.
You
but
did.
We're going to leave it, I think. And what I'll do is I'll put a few things up on our Instagram page for the people of Perth and Beyond feel that they need a little bit more gaming shame. So there's an NES title that is one that I'm hoping to knock off my pile of shame, but I'll leave
Johnny,
that as
we've got time. We've got time. Do you want to bring it up? We do. The people of Perth and Beyond.
Very
quickly. Got time for this.
Very quickly.
We need this. Everyone needs this.
I just wanted to bring up Journey to Silius, and this is an interesting one. This came up. I wasn't aware of this back when I was playing NES back in the day, but with the launch of the Nintendo Switch Online service, I came across this in the NES catalog. And this was a kind of funky Mega Man-esque run and gun game. It's not an overly lengthy game. It's only like 5 levels of this kind of action
It's about 25
platform.
minutes when I Googled it. It was like...
Yeah, it's not a long game. But the really intriguing thing about this game is this was almost like a Terminator movie tie-in game. But sometime during the development, the developer, Sunsoft, they lost the license. And so you could see what they were trying to do. You can almost imagine this as like an 8-bit version of the Michael Biehn, John Connor going through this post-apocalyptic future and fighting robots and stuff like that. And because they lost the license during development, they had to change story elements to not get in hot water with Hollywood. But since I came across it, I've been kind of intrigued by it. So this is one... particularly because it's coming up on its 35th anniversary this weekend. I've been playing through it, and I'm gonna try and finish this one to celebrate the anniversary more than anything else. Because it's kind of it's a neat little game. And it's the 8-bit John Connor adventure we almost had, but just because of the vagaries of Hollywood and that kind of thing back in the day, it didn't end up being that, but it ended up being a pretty cool game, and with a killer soundtrack, standout soundtrack for this game. So I'll leave it there because I know it's been an overflowing episode again. So I wanted to, but thanks, John, for letting me just squeeze that one in there.
No, absolutely. It needed to be put in there. And it's the perfect kind of game to get off your pile of shame because it is short and you can go, I'm going to jump in, I'm going to do it. For Sunsoft, who never got the license.
It's difficult, like all NES games, but it's not exceedingly so. I've gotten through a few levels so far, and it's been okay. So I think it's achievable.
Johnny, from the man who's beaten the famous underwater level from Ninja Turtles on the NES, and I've seen you in action. I know your determination. I have complete faith in you to get through Journey to Silius.
So look out for more on that on the PGC Instagram page, folks.
Awesome. Tim, are there any final words or any advice you'd like to impart to the people of Perth and Beyond, or any key reflections from today? Are you feeling a bit lighter in yourself? Do you feel like you've got some years back?
Yeah, I feel like I'm a little lighter. Like it didn't weigh so heavily on my gamer soul. But I don't know. I guess maybe I was being a bit too harsh on myself with some of these things. I shouldn't set too many hard deadlines. There's always going to be like some time at some stage. But yeah, like if ever like I did want to set myself a challenge, I might need to give myself, a lot of leeway. So like, maybe with the next games, like, I'll just see if like maybe I can do them before the inevitable movie tie-in or movie, movie live action adaptation. I think with the Legend of Zelda, for example, with the live action film, which is coming out, I think 2027. Maybe I've got time there to like finally take on and finish Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, true. And the good thing is our Last of Us specials are a week away. You've got heaps of time to smash out that one. So people at Perth and Beyond, look forward to that. Tim is going to fill us in on his insights. He's going to get on to part 2, the remastered version, watch the TV series, and hell, we might even get a Zelda game done in between. But thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate it. We hope you had a laugh too. And don't kid yourself. We know you have your own pile of shame and backlog battle to face to, like we all do.
Tell us what's in your pile of shame in the comments, people of Perth and Beyond.
Yes, please. And on Insta. But that is all we have time for now. Time to get back to our backlog battle or not. Thanks for joining us, and see you later.